everyone, welcome back to another video. Today is a very special video because this singular video is going to be what I call the masterclass of how to get your account back together. So as you know, I have started the new series where I review your accounts that you send to me and I give you advice based on the things I see on your account. Now, as we all know, every account is different. However, there are some things that I have noticed across the accounts that I think you can apply to your accounts to improve them a lot more, and hopefully things that you can take away from this video to apply to your accounts to make sure that you are achieving your Genshin goals and getting progress. So this video, I'm going to cover everything that you need to know about fixing your account. I have made a video like this in the past, however I want to make an updated one because a lot of things have changed and I have learned a lot more after reviewing some accounts and also just assessing my account after coming back from a really long break. This whole video has been divided, so there are timestamps in the description if there is a specific part you want to look over. However, I highly suggest just watching the whole video itself because there are things you will learn in different sections, and also it's best to get a big overview on things you can improve to your account rather than just one part. So without further ado, sit back and relax and enjoy the video. So the first and foremost thing that I'm sure a lot of people will know and have recognized, because I also have seen a few comments about it, but the main thing is quests. Remember that your quest log can accumulate lots of quests over a lot of time, and if you are still in the early or mid game, you might still have some Archon quests to do. Just remember that these Archon quests can provide a lot of resources and a lot of progress for your account overall. And a lot of time the quests will also give you access to areas and regions that might be locked, for example Inazuma. Also just note that Archon quests are the main way of progression in the game, so you're not missing out on anything if you are doing the Archon quests. Archon quests provide a lot of Mora and can give you the wish if you check the Adventurer's Handbook over here. As we all know, Primogems are the main currency of Genshin and you want to collect a lot of Primogems to get those characters that you want. So making sure that you are doing your Archon quests will give you those Primogems. Also, if you are the type to enjoy the story, the Archon quests will give you the best look at the overall lore in Genshin. So doing Archon quests will make sure that you are up to date with everything in the story and so that you have a bit of context of the areas that you're going to be exploring later. Another key thing that I will mention, especially if you are in early game and don't have all the Archon quests done yet, some Archon quests will prevent you from going to that region or exploring that region successfully without having done the Archon quest. An example of that would be Inazuma. You can't access it without completing the Archon quest and the prerequisite quest for it. So if you have Inazuma characters that you want to build, you will need to do the Archon quest for Inazuma, or at least get to Inazuma before you can start building those characters. The same just goes for other characters whose bosses or materials are scattered throughout an area that you haven't yet unlocked. It's so much easier to go and explore that area when you do have the area unlocked, and efficient ways of teleporting and transporting yourself around that area. Also, completing the Archon quest will allow you to have access to other world quests and story quests around that area too. For example, some world quests will not activate until you actually do complete the Archon quest. That goes for a lot of ones in Inazuma or Fontaine. The next thing you will want to think about is going to be your world quest. Now, I do know that some world quests are insanely long and can take hours to finish, especially things like the desert one or the Aranara quest. Those ones can be absolutely mind-boggling, and just considering how much time you will be spent looking at the screen just clicking through dialogue. However, there are some world quests that are doable because they don't take a lot of time, so if you are able to get those small world quests done, it will clear up a lot of quests on your quest menu and make you feel less overwhelmed. Also, just remember that every quest does give rewards, so you aren't wasting your time at all if you think that you are. If you don't exactly know which quest to start with if you are looking through your world quest menu, focus on going through the quests in the order that you unlock the regions. For example, Mondstadt, then Liyue, then Inazuma, Sumeru, Fontaine, and then Natlan. But if you are more focused about getting rewards in a short amount of time, then I highly recommend you go through Natlan quests, because Natlan quests and exploration do give you a lot more Primogems considerably than the other regions do. One thing I will note, and I will go into more depth about this later, is that for events, if there are limited time events that you can do in the amount of time that you have, then you can go ahead and do them. But if they are events that require you to go through an entire character story quest or need you to explore an area in a limited amount of time, if doing things like that burns you out, then I don't suggest you do that. But they are things that you can consider if you do need those rewards. If you are returning to Genshin after a really long time for taking a break, please don't feel discouraged to return. I know I definitely was discouraged because I was in the middle of long quests and I still had so many quests piling up after all the updates. updates, but here is a little bit of hope for you guys. Remember that the longer a quest has been out, the more guides there are available to help you through your questing journey. So it's more likely there will be tons of guides on quests in Inazuma than there are for Natlan, and it should be more helpful to guide you through those things, and you can definitely find articles if you ever are stuck in a part of a quest. You might be thinking, what is the whole point of doing quests? Well, let me tell you that quests give you a lot of rewards. So in that case, if you're trying to build a character and you don't want to go farming for EXP or Mora, sometimes quests alone can give you the required amount so you can build them without having to worry about doing ley lines. I know that when I rejoined back in Fontaine, I still needed to farm a lot of EXP, but just after doing Fontaine quests alone and exploring and doing everything like that, I did not have to go farm any additional EXP or Mora because of the amount that the quests gave me. The quests are sort of like a head start that give you rewards and help you progress more in the game. So if you just pulled a banner character and need to build that character, take a look at your quest menu and see what you can get out of doing that quest. If you're like me and not a big fan of doing story quests or hangouts, I will tell you that you don't have to do those quests. Especially if you have a lot of Primogems to spare and really aren't desperate for those 60 Primogems, then there is absolutely no need to do a story quest or hangout unless it is crucial to progressing in the story, such as quests that are required to be completed like the Kazuha story quest in order to actually access Archon quests. Also, some of those quests can also unlock weekly bosses, such as the Nahida quest and the Raiden Part 2, and you will need those quests to be completed if you want to be able to farm weekly bosses in co-op mode. Either way, I still recommend doing those quests because they are necessary for game progress, and again, they give you rewards too. Now on to the next part of all of this, resource management. So whether or not you have come back from Genshin after a really long break or you're just looking to fix your account right now, resource management is something you're going to run into and need to think about. The main priority is building a character that you want to play. I am very much emphasizing the idea of wanting to play them rather than just following the meta. A lot of people that follow the meta get easily bored with their characters and will want to switch things up. However, if it is a character that you enjoy playing, you are more likely to want to build them and play them for longer. In this case, I really love Navia, and I continue to play her even if I got her a while back. I am still in the process of building her, and even up to now I have not gotten bored of her playstyle. Once you have chosen the main DPS that you're going to be surrounding your team around, then you're going to want to choose supports for this character. Now sometimes you might have to consult an online build guide or some friends that you know have played that character, but as long as you're choosing support characters that you have available to you and building teams that you enjoy playing. You might think that there isn't much team flexibility, but for example, I have Nuvilette. I could have run a Nuvilette Vaporize team, but instead I decided to run a Nuvilette Taser team, and that's just because I enjoy the Electrocharge reaction more than I do Vaporize. Now once you have your whole team set up, you will want to invest all your resources on building this team and making them strong. It is very easy to get distracted with all these other fancy characters and new banner characters, but make sure that you are focused with your own team that you're currently building, just so that you are using your resources in the most efficient way possible. So that means any resin you get will be going towards building that team and making them stronger and more usable, and to ensure that you can clear content in the future. If you are one of those people that has a ton of characters and just doesn't know which team to build, you can either start by testing out characters you enjoy the playstyle of, or just looking up a build guide around a character that you like the design of, or a character that you think is interesting. There is really no one way of choosing your main DPS and who you want to play. It is always up to you and who you like to play more, as long as you are prioritizing your happiness over the meta. A common struggle that you will run into is running out of character ascension materials. These materials only drop from enemies in the world, and that's the main way you get them, and as we all know, some of the drop rates are not the best. However, if you are farming them daily consistently and using the Adventurer's Handbook, you will eventually have enough to use, and you'll be able to build the characters that you need. I know some enemies are more annoying to fight than others. In my case, it would be the Transoceanic Pearls for Clorend and Nuvilette. It was so annoying to have to go underwater all the time, but eventually after I got them, I am satisfied with their builds. So if you end up logging into Genshin one day and really not knowing what to do, I highly suggest looking at the characters that you are planning to build, going in and looking at their talents or their ascension materials, and just seeing what they need so you can go around and farm them. It can be a pretty boring task, but if you're on call with your friend or just talking to a bunch of people or have something else going on at the same time, it should be a little bit less mind-numbing and hopefully more enjoyable and won't feel like time is passing slowly. Also, ignore the fact that I have a Bloom team team on Kinich. I know this is not his best team. I just wanted to play Nahida. On a similar note about farming materials, a lot of people will see a banner character and get excited about them and start pre-farming this character. Now I do have a lot of thoughts and opinions about pre-farming, and the main thing is that I don't recommend that you should do it. That is unless you are absolutely guaranteed to get this character and you won't be changing your mind later, and you have enough primogems to get them and enough resin. Just remember that your resin is time, and getting resin is not that easy, especially if you are free to play. So the last thing you want to do is use all your resin on getting materials that you won't even use in the future, and also waste the time that you spent farming up those materials. The things you can possibly farm are mob drops, but that is about it. I don't suggest going in and doing talent domains or artifacts or even world boss materials. That's mainly because if you aren't guaranteed the character, then you aren't guaranteed that your time will pay off that you spent farming for these characters. If any of you are wondering if I pre-farm or not, the answer is no. The only thing I might pre-farm is everything you can't get with resin, such as the ascension materials that you can go out and collect in the world, or mob drops that you use for raising their talents. But anything other than that, I will not go and pre-farm. Also remember that you might end up changing your mind and you might be really excited to get a character, but then last minute decide that you don't want them anymore. However, if you did pre-farm, then you would have all these materials that you couldn't use later, and all that time is going to be wasted. In summary, don't pre-farm unless you are guaranteed, but even then I suggest hold off on the pre-farming and mainly focus on things that you can't get with resin. Now something I'd like to move on to is character building, which is the main thing in Genshin. Just in general, making your character stronger is a long process and there isn't one definite way. However, there are things I have learned about it that I hope you can apply to your own account. After years of building characters in Genshin, the one thing that I have made sure to take note of is the order in which you raise your characters. As you know, building a character consists of more than just raising their level, but also raising their weapons, artifacts, talents, and sometimes their constellation. While I won't consider constellation for now, the main order that you do want to consider for building your characters is to first level up their main level itself. You're going to want to level them to the highest level possible, just so that their damage will be a lot higher. Remember, this is something that you can guarantee because as characters get higher leveled, the more damage they will do. Another thing you want to do is make sure you're building their weapon next. Your weapon is very crucial to the amount of damage you're going to do, because even if your character is level 90, if they have a level 1 1-star weapon, they will not do the right amount of damage. Again, weapons are a guaranteed upgrade, so once you're upgrading your weapon, you know that your damage is going to be higher. After that, you would want to consider talents. I do know that talents do take a long time to raise, considering how many things we need to put into just to have your talents raised from one level to the next, but talents are still very important to consider. Now make sure you are looking at the talent reference upgrade so that you are raising the correct talents and so that you aren't wasting your resources on talents that won't be useful to that character. This is also a third guaranteed upgrade to your character, so the more you're raising talents, the more damage they will do. After you have made sure to raise everything, the last thing you'll want to do is look over some artifacts. You can farm artifacts in artifact domains or strongbox them. However, make sure that artifacts are the last thing you do after building everything else for your character. The reason why, and I have mentioned this in a previous video, is because artifacts are not a guaranteed upgrade for your account. Remember that artifact stats are random, and basically every time you go in an artifact domain, it's going to be a gamble and you have no idea what you're going to get. Unlike with everything else, you cannot guarantee that the resin you spend on an artifact domain is going to be an upgrade for your character. For example, if you spent 20 resin on a talent domain, you would get talent books for sure. You'd be able to raise that talent and make sure your character does higher damage. However, if you spend 20 resin on an artifact domain, you have no idea if the artifact you're going to get is going to improve your character at all. That's why you're going to want to save artifacts as the last thing you do when raising your character. This might all seem very overwhelming considering how many different resources you need to do every single part of your character, but keep in mind if you did do quests earlier and follow the previous steps, you should have enough resources just to at least level up your character. Quests can give you lots of EXP, Mora, and weapon raising materials, and sometimes limited time events can also give you access to materials from limited time domains. If you're still stuck on building characters, there is the training guide that's built into Genshin, but sometimes overly relying on the training guide itself may not be helpful. In this case, it says to level up Nahida's normal attack, and that isn't really something I'd want to do. That's just because I don't use Nahida's normal attack for anything at all, so why would I need to raise it and spend all my resources on leveling up something that I will not need in the future? Again, there are plenty of guides guides available on how to build your characters, and if you do join my Discord server in the description that I've linked, we do have people that can help you with your builds, and you can post your builds and help others improve their own Genshin accounts. And you can also be part of the community where we all talk about Genshin and help each other out. But again, that's up to you. The link is just in the description if you are curious. Now on to the next thing that you need to consider is where you get your resources from. Obviously we have all the resources that you can get from using your resin, but wasting your resin on resources like Mora and EXP knowing there are other ways you can get them might not be the best of your solutions. Let's say for example you've logged into Genshin and used all your resin for the day, but you still want to level up your characters. Well, the answer for you is exploration. Now a lot of people don't like exploration just because of how long it takes, and that's totally fine. I didn't like exploration at first, especially when it was a place like Sumeru Desert. I won't even scroll there because I don't want to show you the progress I have on that. But you guys all know that I don't have very high progress there, and that's just because it's so boring and so mind-numbing just to explore that sandy area. However, I will tell you one thing, exploration will give you a ton of rewards. When I got back into Genshin, I started exploring Fontaine and it felt really like a breath of fresh air just because of how beautiful the area was and with the amount of rewards that I got from all the chests and puzzles. Obviously, if you want to progress faster in terms of exploration, you could always consider building an exploration team. This team consists of people that can quickly traverse the area, usually with people that have regional skills such as Kinich who can do the grappling hook in Natlan, or Farina who can walk on water, and just people with alternate sprints and speed buffs. They will be really helpful to explore a lot quicker, and sometimes if they are part of the region, they will have regional buffs, such as showing you locations of regional specialties. My best suggestion for anyone that just wants to explore right away is to explore Natlan, because we have the Tablet of Tona, which will give you a lot of Primogems, and also we have the limited time event that will give you Primogems based on exploration progress. All of these are great incentives to go and explore Natlan, so I highly recommend you go do that before any other region. If you already finished Natlan, you can go explore Fontaine, or if you're not really a fan of Natlan or haven't unlocked it yet, the easiest region to explore is Mondstadt, and then after that is Liyue. Inazuma is somewhat easy, but the problem is the rewards are not as good since most of them are common chests, so the next best thing after that is going to be Fontaine. I wouldn't suggest Sumeru just because of how difficult it is to access some of the chests there, and because the terrain can be pretty boring, but again that's just my personal preference, and it's up to you where you want to start exploring. Also keep in mind that some chests actually do drop talent books, so if you are trying to level up a character in a certain area, then you'll want to explore that area to try and get the regional talent books. What I mean by that is I did not start farming the talent book domain in Fontaine until I had completely finished Fontaine exploration. The reason for that was because the chests did give talent books, and I didn't want to waste any resin on talent domains, knowing that books were completely accessible, resin-free in my world already. Another thing you need to do is collect the oculi of your land. Again, you'll want to start with Mondstadt, and I guess you can just go in the order of which you unlock the region, but remember that oculi can be put in the statue, and as a result you can also get Primogems and Shrine of Depth keys. Primogems are really helpful for pulling for characters later, and Shrine of Depth keys will give you access to the shrines and more Primogems too. If you don't know how to explore efficiently, I have a video on that, but the best method is using the interactive map to show you where all the locations for every chest and puzzle are, as well as sometimes a guide on how to complete the puzzle or the challenge. If you don't like to use the interactive map and don't like to switch in between tabs, another really great option is the treasure compass, and the reason why is because the treasure compass did get buffed so that it doesn't just show you the direction, but it also shows you on the map where the location is. It also shows you stuff that you haven't done, like challenges as well, and can be really helpful compared to what it was before. So if you haven't touched your exploration yet, go ahead and do that. It is a great way to improve your account and help you get access to so many resources. Elaborating more on something I mentioned earlier, which was events. Events will be your main source of new Primogems other than the ones you have for exploration. These are because events happen all the time and will give you access to Primogems that you can only get for a limited amount of time. The moment an event pops up and you can do it, I highly suggest you go and do that event, because the moment that event is gone, you can no longer get anything from that event. That even applies to event weapons, where you can get access to these weapons that will not come back in the future. Even if you think the weapon might not be useful and you won't have a character to put it on, I still recommend you get the weapon because you never know what kind of characters you'll be pulling for way later, and it's better just to have the weapon handy rather than not have the weapon at all. I know that some events can be a little bit tricky to complete because of their difficulty and sometimes their combat, But as long as you are doing the events that you can do and you don't have to do the max level, just make sure that you're doing everything that you have available to you so that you are able to get access to all those rewards, and it will definitely improve your account. Also, I just realized Watatsumi Island looks so beautiful at night. Oh, I love this place so much. If events like the exploration one in that land are stressing you out, I really hope it doesn't. These events are here for a really long time and don't require you to complete them on the day they release. Events are just there to give you a bonus for playing on Genshin, not to stress you out and make you overwhelmed with all the things you need to complete. So if you aren't able to do every event, that is okay. Some events do come back like Wind Trace, so just make sure you're managing your time in terms of completing events. Speaking of time management, let's talk about making a schedule for Genshin. As someone who just played Genshin whenever I had the time and sometimes would play for 9 hours a day, I did not really have a schedule back then. However, I realized how much time is wasted with me just aimlessly running around, such as what I'm doing right now, versus how much time I can spend efficiently farming. If you need somewhere to start, the best thing you can do is open up your Adventurer's Handbook and check out some domains. Mostly check out Weapon Ascension materials and Talent Ascension materials. These are the domains you're going to want to build around. For example, if the character you're building has a talent book domain that's available on Mondays, then you're going to want to farm on Mondays. If you know that none of your characters requires you to farm on a certain day, then that can be your rest day on Genshin, or it can be your exploration day. Just make sure that you have enough resin to farm on that day, or are saving your condensed resin to use on the day after in case that is your plan. So for example, if I know that I won't be farming anything on Thursday, but I know that I need a ton of talent books on Friday, then I would condense all my 5 resin on Thursday so that I have double the amount of resin on Friday. I know math is involved, but I'm pretty sure this is more fun math than anything else you'll have to do. And there are plenty of guides that can help you make a schedule so that you are farming efficiently. And there are plenty improvements to Genshin itself to ensure that you are farming on the right day and using your resin efficiently. Another thing that requires a lot of self-discipline is making a time limit for yourself on Genshin. Sometimes farming for 10 hours a day is not always the smartest thing. You should probably tell my past self that, or maybe even my present self. But also, exploring areas for that amount of time can be absolutely horrendous, and sometimes you won't even want to play the day after, considering how much time you spent on that day just playing Genshin. I was one of those people that would explore an area the moment it dropped, and yes, it was effective because I did get all the rewards and completed it quickly, but also there really was no point completing it that fast because it's not like the area was gonna go away. So in order to make sure your life is balanced and you aren't getting overwhelmed, set a schedule for yourself while playing Genshin. And the most important thing that I think you should consider in terms of time limits and schedules is which day you are going to explore. Exploring takes a really long time and can be a hefty load on your brain, especially if it's an area that's very overstimulating, which is an issue that I faced with exploring many areas. I did not enjoy so much exploring Inka no Miya or the Sea of Bygone Eras, and that's just because I got so dizzy and so overwhelmed with all the colors and everything there. Being in the water for long periods of time sometimes made me nauseous while looking at the scenery, so just keep that in mind in case you do plan to have exploration days. Make sure you are mentally and physically prepared to sit in front of your screen and explore those areas, just so that you don't face any side effects after exploring. Just remember it's okay to take breaks, especially if you are overwhelmed with something. Genshin should not be an overwhelming experience, in fact it should be relaxing, so just take care of your mental health before you do any really difficult tasks. This honestly feels almost like a routine where I end in the Serena teapot. It is the honest truth, I do love the teapot and how many resources you can get from it, so if your teapot is empty, put something in it. I don't care if you don't have a lot of furnishings, just put something in it so that you are getting your realm coins, because realm coins are really valuable since you can get resin and mora and exp. Try your best to raise your trust rank and make sure that you have the highest adeptal energy, just so that you can get the highest amount of coins as well and gain access to all these things in the realm depot. These things reset weekly and you can get a ton of free stuff just by using a few of your realm coins, and this is something you definitely don't want to miss out on. The moment you get access to your teapot, make sure you start farming in it. If you don't exactly know how to farm in your teapot, I have a video guide all about that, and I will link it in the description in case you are curious. But other than that, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. I definitely had fun making this video, and just remember there are going to be other account reviews coming up in the future. It just might take a little while, but if you did find something helpful from this video, do let me know in the comments, and if you have any questions or would like to make a request for a specific video, I am always welcome to suggestions or anything else you'd like to say. Have a wonderful day everyone, good luck on your pulls, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!